Greetings and welcome to this next installment of Bible Topics that make you say, hmm. And I'm Robin Sweet Ransom. All right. So, as always, I'm glad that you have elected to join me today. We're going to talk about a topic that is, as always, like all the rest of my topics, a little off the beaten path, but that's how you like it. Is mental illness a sign of demonic possession? We've seen the movies. Is mental illness associated with this? So let's look into it further. Let's go to Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 6. Then they came to the other side of the sea, to the region of the Gerasenes. As soon as he, Jesus, got out of the boat, a man with an unclean spirit came out of the tombs and met him. He lived in the tombs. In fact, he was often naked in the tombs, cemetery. Can you imagine this person running around screaming and so forth? They said no one was able to restrain him anymore, even with chains, because he often had been bound with shackles and chains, but had snapped off the chains and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him, and always, night and day, he was crying out among the tombs and in the mountains and cutting himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and knelt down before him, and he cried out with a loud voice, "What do you have to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you before God, don't torment me." Which is interesting because he's being tormented. I think he was divided. I think the part of him that still was him was running to Jesus to save him from the torment. But then he was overwhelmed by this other presence that was fighting against it. Verse 8, for he had told him, this is Jesus, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then he says, "What is your name?" And then they said, "My name is Legion, because we are many." And he kept begging him not to send them out of the region. These are the demons speaking through the man. Now, a large herd of pigs were there feeding on the hillside. The demons begged him, "Send us to the pigs so we may enter them." And he gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd of about 2,000 rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned there. Out of one man came enough demons to fill up 2,000 pigs. That is scary, right? I can't imagine. And he was healed. He wanted to follow Jesus after that, but Jesus said, "No, you stay here and you witness." Even him being silent was a witness, right? Because everyone knew how messed up he was, but now he's in his sound mind. In this case, demonic possession was the source of his mental illness. And once healed of the demons, he was sane. Is that always the case? Is mental illness always a sign of demonic possession? Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 3 through 7. Then Elijah became afraid and immediately ran for his life. He was running from Queen Jezebel. He had just killed 400 of her false prophets, and she was fight mad, and she swore she'd kill him. So when he came to Beersheba that belonged to Judah, he left his servant there, but he went on a day's journey into the wilderness. He sat down under a broom tree and prayed that he might die. He said, "I have had enough. Lord, take my life, for I'm no better than my forefathers." Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. He was very depressed. Oftentimes, I've heard people say after spiritual highs, there's this low. It's hard to come up out of it. He was so depressed that he begged God to take his life. Were demons at play here? Verse 5. Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. Suddenly, an angel touched him. The angel told him, "Get up and eat." Then he looked, and there at his head was a loaf of bread baked over hot stones and a jug of water. Can you imagine bread baked by an angel? I'm sure it was scrumptious. I love bread. So I'm salivating now. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Didn't even ask questions. He just had no energy to do anything but do what he was told. Then the angel of the Lord returned a second time and touched him. He said, "Get up and eat, or the journey will be too much for you." See, rather than take his life, God felt compassion for Elijah. He sent his angel to minister to him, to feed him, because he knew Elijah didn't even have the energy himself. Continuing on. So he got up, ate, and drank. Then, on the strength from just that food, he walked 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mountain of God. He entered a cave there and spent the night. Then the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Now, Yahweh knew why he was there, but he wanted to hear what Elijah would say. Elijah replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God of hosts, but the Israelites have abandoned your covenant, torn down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are looking for me to take my life. I can't take this anymore." So he's still depressed. 40 days later, verse 18, this is God speaking. "I will leave 7,000 in Israel, every knee that has not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." In other words, you're not alone, Elijah. There are others like you who have kept my commandments. And even when you feel most alone, I'm here. I even sent an angel to you. Isn't that comforting? So in this case, was mental illness a sign of demonic possession? Not all mental disturbances are demonic. We know in the first case it absolutely was. Mental illness is just a byproduct of sin and is not always demonic. Just like diabetes, we have mental illness. Depression can be a sign of mental illness, but it doesn't have to be. If chronic, the mental illness is present, meaning that this depression persists even when circumstances improve. You lose a loved one, you lose a job, you get depressed. If it's just tied to circumstances, it isn't always considered mental illness. But I was reading something that said that it becomes chronic when you're experiencing it at least 2 weeks in a row. We know that Ezekiel experienced it over a month, about 6 weeks. So he was probably considered clinically depressed, but it was not demonically sourced. It was just circumstances. He was running for his life. Wouldn't you be depressed? God can heal or walk you through it, though. And he proved that. He sent his angel to be with Ezekiel, and he's sending his angels to be with us now. Yahweh will carry us through. And I love this. We've all seen this. The Lord replied, "My child, I would never leave you. During your times of trial, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then I carried you." This is one of my favorite scriptures. I have it memorized. "Throw your burdens upon Jehovah, and he himself shall sustain you." Psalm 55:22. Never will he allow the righteous one to totter. That's the other portion of it. So I don't know what you're going through, but not all mental illness is attached to demonic possession. It is just a manifestation of the sin in this world. And sometimes that's the sin we have to the problem we have to deal with, I should say. And so be encouraged. The Lord is with you. You may be going through a dark time now, but you will see light on the other side. All right. God bless. Thank you for joining me. And next time, we are going to talk about our modern day prophets in mental hospitals. See you next time on Bible Topics That Make You Say, coolness.